Hi, and welcome to Visibility Unlimited and Visibility Unlimited Spotlight, the video portion to Visibility Unlimited, the podcast. I'm Leslie Short, your host and the owner of the Cover Group. As always, I'm excited for my interviews, but today is an interview I have been wanting to do for some time. You will see the screen looks a little bit different. You will also know that there will be pauses in between some of the questions, answers, and responses. So if you're listening, don't worry, it's not you. Just hold on because our special guest I'm excited to have is Bridget Lemus and Epiphany Davis. And our interpreters for today will be Simone and Benny. So welcome everyone.
Yay! Thanks for having us.
Of course. As you will notice, I have two ASL interpreters, and they will be interpreting for Bridget, who is part of the deaf culture, and she's going to be sharing what her life is through what deaf culture means to her. Epiphany is also a ASL interpreter, and she's going to be sharing what her life is, how she studied, what's it look like for her. We're going to cover everything, the culture, the representation, all of that. So, Bridget, welcome. I'm going to start with you.
Yes, thank you. Please go ahead, Leslie. I'm so excited to be here. It really is such an honor.
Thank you. What does deaf culture mean to you?
For me, deaf culture is community. And in that community, there's such a rich language and assigned history. It's like art. It's just like art that's then passed down from generations. And we pretty much view language through our eyes. And it's not just us, it's art, it's tradition, it's language, it's everything being passed down through our community from our community. And it's all just one giant family in a way. It's also a sense of identity. And with that identity comes a lot of pride. Don't pity us and don't think, oh my God, are you disabled? This must mean something really terrible for you, but it's not that at all.
Absolutely. I think it's understanding. And from what it was years ago, when someone had a disability, I think our society was scared to speak to someone or didn't know what to do. You said to some, what do you want people to know? Are you okay being approached? How should people, and I hate to ask that, but how should people approach? Because people just don't know. I hear that people are nervous. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, typically if I go into the office or if I do anything into any public space like a store, I'd rather people be like, come up to me and not be afraid to approach me. Sometimes people will roll their eyes or avoid us altogether because they don't have patience, because they're afraid of communicating. Just be patient with us. You have your way of communicating, so do we as deaf people. You never know when we can actually make a connection. So life is full of surprises. So don't cut yourself off from being able to have those connections be made with someone just because you're not comfortable with the way that they communicate. Just, take your time and treat us like people. That's all we want. We want to make sure we have accommodations if possible, interpreters, writing back and forth, but you have to also make the effort because I know we do. But it's also important that you know how to approach deaf people properly. And we have our own ways of etiquette in doing so.
I know when I was in class, ASL class and studying, said normally you don't touch anyone, right? But they said it's okay to wave at someone or to touch someone to get their attention. But like anything, there's a way to do it and respect.
Absolutely. So let's say if you were to say like, hey, I can't hear that, right? I'm deaf. So people do that to me. They'll try to talk to me and they'll say, hey, but like I'm obviously deaf. So they think I'm just being bougie or I'm being rude. So what you could do is a hand wave like this. Again, be really gentle because you don't want to tap on people real hard. Because if you're tapping hard with the type of urgency, it's either an emergency or you're just being rude or there's something going on. So a light tap is just the way you can do that. Some deaf people can read lips. I would prefer you actually give me a little gentle tap on the shoulder because that's what I do and that's what I need. But right, every person is going to be slightly different.
And I think that's the point. Everyone is different. So you cannot assume that you dealt with someone one way when you were five, that the same person you're meeting at 35 wants to be recognized the same way. Like that's with all of us. And so
Mhm.
that brings me to when we were having a conversation before around access. What does access mean to you, and what should it mean to those that are supposed to be creating it?
Yeah, I just want to make sure folks know that accessibility is like really important to talk to deaf people and have us lead it. It should be deaf led. Ask us what our accommodations are. Like if I go to a concert, I have an interpreter that is in the sight lines and possibly going to be on the stage with a performer. Why is the interpreter going to be somewhere where I have to then strain my neck and then move and look some type of way and I look crazy and now we're hurting our necks to try to get access. So just try to understand and talk to us as deaf people. And it really was the first time I went to a concert that we had beautiful accommodations where they had an interpreter who actually was on the same stage and a sight line that also fit the culture. They had a black performer with a black interpreter. Just like if we had any sort of folks with the same staging, it's important that they have the culture and the representation. So it's not just one piece that matters, there's multiple facets that are just so vital.
Absolutely. Well, Epiphany, that's a perfect way to bring you into the conversation. Welcome.
Yeah, well, let's go. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Epiphany.
As an interpreter, what
Mhm.
does access mean to you?
Well, accessibility means to me being open to feedback. That's feedback from the consumer, that's feedback from the facility, that's feedback from the agency that may be putting you on that stage. It just means being open to accommodating the needs of that consumer at that time, at that place, at that setting, and leaving it there because not one mold fits everyone. So the accessibility looks like from the time you start an assignment until the time that it's finished, making sure that the consumer is happy. Like, are they getting the same information that I'm putting out there? Are they understanding it? Do I need to change methods around? Do they know what's going on environmentally? Do they want to know what's going on environmentally? For example, if we're doing a concert, would they like to know when their favorite song is coming up, or would they like to be surprised? Things like that is just being open to knowing that you are not in control of a person's experience, but you're partnering with them for that experience. And I'm here to, as an interpreter, make sure that that experience is done right from beginning to end while I'm on that assignment.
Oh, I love that. So, two questions from that.
Yeah,
One, you use the word consumer.
yes.
And so, will you clarify that? Because I think I haven't heard that used from someone before. So, I would love to understand that better.
I prefer to use, or I often use the word consumer because they're not my client. They are a person, a participant attending the event or the appointment, or I just say the deaf person, the hard of hearing person.
Mhm.
But it's just something generally speaking, because when you're providing access, is to invite them to that equal playing field. And so I don't separate this person with this person. We're going to make this accessible so that everything that's going on with this side of the room can be felt with this side of the room. So I use the word consumer. Not everyone does.
Mhm.
And I'm, like I said, I'm open to feedback and open to what that person would like to be named or called during that assignment or appointment.
Mhm. How often do you have the opportunity to speak with, as you would say, the consumer in advance of that event?
To Thank you. To protect their privacy, we don't really have a contact, but we will reach out to the agency and
Mhm.
say, hey, I've never worked with this person before. Can you give me any background information on what they prefer an interpreter to, like, how they would like their interpreter to be present? Would they like me to introduce myself when I walk into the room, or would they like to not be self-identified walking in?
Mhm.
Because you could have some people that don't want to be outed as needing those accommodations, because a lot of times people will stigmatize the participants and saying, oh, and then we go back to that, oh, they need that interpreter, or they can't access this information without, and then it turns into something where it's creating this division when it's supposed to be this equal playing field. So it's getting this information from the agency, and that's a lot of due diligence on the interpreter's point of view. Once you get that assignment, it's the responsibility to say, okay, this is a medical appointment. This is their first time there. Do they prefer this type of ASL, or do they prefer signed English? Do they prefer mouthing? Do they want me to identify who they are in the room, or would they prefer me to just stand as if this is just open access and not really pointing them out? And so it's really ensuring that the person that is using the accommodations, that they are empowered to make those decisions themselves and not have those decisions forced on them.
Understood. Well, that goes into something that Bridget said before, and that's representation. And so it's twofold, right? Is the agency aware what is needed? And Bridget, how much do you have the opportunity, which should be always, throw my 2 cents in, to tell them how you want to be represented through your interpreter?
Yeah, I typically have that email sent out to the agency, but I wish interpreters and the agencies themselves put the onus on themselves instead of putting all of the actual labor on us as deaf patrons. And I wish they were able to just do that easier, maybe even through email or something. But I do request specific interpreters that I want for concerts. I do give them a list of names that I prefer. Back in my previous experience, I did want Black interpreters for like a Black rap concert because they had a Black artist. So yes, I want Black performers to be with Black interpreters and Black interpreters to be with Black performers. But sometimes a lot of interpreters, not all of them know the styles of music, and also who's professional, who is knows the culture, who's able to express what it is that I need expressed in the way that we can understand. Because also, if I paid for my money for my ticket and the services aren't great, I don't get a refund for that type of money. Hearing people get a certain experience, and a lot of us as deaf visitors and deaf patrons miss out on that. So we just want an equitable experience. And I hope in the future that the burden is then put on the agencies or even on the venue themselves and not on the actual patrons who are paying to be in that space, because we also want good quality interpreters because not all interpreters are made the same.
All right. You said before what you need, someone should be asking you well in advance, right? You should be at the table in that concert hall when the concert hall is being built, realistically.
Right.
That's just called. And if not, then
Right.
when you're planning, when they are planning,
Right. And let's see,
or
and make sure that like we're buying tickets, right? Like, hey, did you buy a ticket? Cool. Yes. Then we'll find an interpreter. ASAP. Like as soon as they know we need accommodations for the person who bought the tickets, why are they not securing people right away?
well, part of that, not that I'm defending anyone, I want to be clear because this is what I believe should happen. Those venues don't have accessibility officers, coordinators on site. And I think every venue should have one on site. I think an office should have one on site. I think every award show should have one. I think that should be a full-time
Right.
job. And
Yeah.
that way there's someone that understands. And when that concert goes up or that doctor appointment comes in and that check box for I need whatever I need, there's someone there that understands it and that reaches out and says, tell me what you would like to have. I'm going to make sure it happens. Okay, Miss Bridget, you're coming to the doctor, you're coming to the concert. Everything's arranged for you. I will greet you if you would like me to when you arrive. I don't think that that's difficult. It should be an experience.
Exactly. It's really what it is. We want the experience, and it feels like it's a double burden for us as deaf patrons. We should want a smooth experience, right? It's an equal experience. That's all it is. It's just an equivalent experience as the hearing guests. That's all.
One thing that I've found while in the field, just working, a lot of people lack the understanding of deaf culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so medical professionals, educators, while they have to do like continuing education credits, I think that there should be some type of cultural recommendation that should be required because if you are in these spaces, having things or having situations like talking to the interpreter instead of to the person that is there at the appointment. That's crucial because that doctor or that provider, that teacher, there's an element of relationship building that just comes with looking at a person in their eyes when they come to an assignment, when they come to an appointment, anything that they're needing.
Right.
And so when that doesn't happen, there's a whole other set of just traumatic exposure that comes with it because now there's a lack of trust because you don't even see me.
Right.
I understand that. I mean, it goes, and this is so true to it, but sitting at a table, and I was at a table of all men, and they kept speaking to the men, but I was the one paying, I was the one in charge, and I was invisible. And I
Mhm.
had a voice to speak up. So I only imagine having to wait for someone to speak up for you and that other person acting like you're not there. And I always turn it around. How would you feel if you were sitting here and felt like you weren't seen? It is beyond representation.
It just feels like they're acting like we're ghosts, right? Like they're completely disregarding us. Like I'm not standing right here. Like I'm just part of the scenery. Like I'm part of the wall. And that's what it feels like.
It's education. You're absolutely right. I mean, that needs to happen. And it's beyond calling an ASL interpreter or getting a reader or doing anything else. Oh, we have a ramp. Great. And I'm like, you have a ramp with no rails. You have you have an ASL interpreter who doesn't know what the people need, you know? And so I hope part of reason of doing this podcast and having you all on, other than it's personally warms my heart, is that there's an education piece that someone will listen to this or see this and say, wow, I need to do better. How do I do better? Mhm. So,
Right. I think with that is being in contact with the agency too,
mhm.
right? Is like saying like, hey, I think it's important that, right, we have deaf-led accommodations and deaf-led experiences. And then also check back in with us because we do provide that feedback like, hey, our experience based on XYZ on this concert with this interpreter was this, this, and that.
And tell me, so it's not one or the other. I believe that you can have captions. You should have captions, and you should have an ASL interpreter. It shouldn't be one or the other. What's your thoughts on
Interpreters clarifying.
that?
Yeah, I have ASL interpreters on my like video relay, like my little VRI screen. It's video remote interpreting.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm fine with having sort of this video remote interpreting just on like a screen. But if it is something that is very serious, like a surgery, then I would of course want interpreters like in person. So that's just another battle that we're going with because right, if it's a screen, it can break, it can do certain things. And if you're in a really delicate situation, you don't want that. It can disconnect. The Wi-Fi can go down. It can freeze and it delays and really draws out the time. It really drags it. So there are options. We either have an in-person interpreter or a VRI, the video remote interpreter, or sometimes I even just do pen and paper back and forth for myself. And then give the interpreter just 1 second.
Yeah.
Right. And then for other people, it really is up to them because most folks don't really, English might not be their first language for a lot of deaf people. So just providing only captions isn't always the most accessible to everyone. So, right, having one and the other can really make you're casting that net wider. So you're really going to accommodate a large number of people. And that's what accommodations are for, right? And because some people might have a language delay, some people's first language is not written English, so it might actually be ASL. So ASL interpreters and captioning, I think, in tandem are better.
So,
And thinking about stage work for interpreters,
mhm.
imagine a play with no spotlight on the actors. So now think about placing an interpreter on stage and having no light on them. it doesn't make sense, right? But
Right.
there are times where that extra, just extra boost or extra benefit to the consumer sitting in that audience to see us clearly, that sometimes is a fight because there might be a distraction or the musicians don't know or unaware that they're going to have interpreters at the show. And with just the internet sensations of people recording in public spaces, they may think that we are doing TikToks on stage or doing, Instagram challenges.
Right.
It's a thing because that's just the world we live in. But communication is so vital. Hey, on Thursday night, we'll have interpreters. They will be on stage left. That section will be lit. The consumers will be right there accessing those interpreters. It's a simple statement, but it goes a long way. And it's helpful for miscommunication when security is wondering what we're doing and they haven't communicated with the ADA staff about bringing interpreters for that night.
But that
So
goes
we,
back again to them,
mhm,
sorry to cut you off, to the venues,
sure.
to those places. I'm not going to just bring you in 10 minutes before the concert. You're
Mhm.
coming in for your light rehearsal on the stage that you've told me the size that you need if it's not on the stage, if it's next. I've spoken to the lighting, I've spoken to security. I've made sure the seating is there, that there's no instruction. I'm going to make sure that there's captions as well as ASL, whether someone needs them or not. That's what it should be. Why are you
Oh,
fighting? I mean, I know why, but why are you fighting just to be in the right place at the right time?
Right. It's that
ex-
yes and it's both,
Right.
not or.
Right.
I think with having the ASL interpreters, like for me, I use interpreters because I can express myself.
Mhm.
And because sometimes I'm not sure certain meanings of certain words, but if I have an interpreter, I can see it in ASL and it makes sense. And that also works both ways. So also having the interpreter be able to hear the tone. How is someone saying it? Not just what they're saying, but the how. That is something you miss in captioning. And so that's why I'd rather have the interpreter because it provides tonality as well as information. But right, I think it is a yes and for some folks they will prefer to use the captions. And but for me, I prefer interpreters, but there are folks out there who would like both, but might skew a little bit heavier on the captioning piece.
Mhm.
a commitment to fostering the focus on what the ticket buyers, what do they want,
Right.
will grow that audience more. People and that trust will be
Right.
built because you go to an event where it's 40,000, 50,000 people in the building,
Right.
but there's only two people that are using interpreters. People want to be included in spaces that are driving our social media, that are driving the world culture that we live in. But they don't trust that when they arrive there, that it'll be an interpreter to match their wants,
Right.
that the venue will honor their request,
Mhm.
that there might be an interpreter available. So they may buy their ticket and show up and hope for the best.
Right.
So it's, it's bringing everyone to the table to access, the life that we're all living.
And I go back to what Bridget said when she said there's people that may not even want to call in and say, I need this service. And yet, when they get there and they see an interpreter, it works for them, or they see the captions. I always say, when I do workshops, I will ask people sometime, do you feel that you will have a disability? Some people go, absolutely not. And I go, most of us will. The first will be our hearing. Other could be our sight. It could be our movement. So please stop having the conversation as an afterthought. It's a now thought. Mhm. So that makes me, there was a red carpet event, I think it was the Oscars, where many celebrities uh, bought their own ASL interpreters with them on the red carpet. These were not celebrities that were of the deaf culture or community or hard of hearing. They were making a statement that the ASL interpreters should be part of the show. And so they hired their own on the red carpet. Lately, you're seeing much more ASL
I
interpreters.
do remember that. Yes.
Yes. So you're seeing them, hence how I found you all. because I saw on Instagram that Bridget, you posted if Epiphany, and I was like, oh, I just watched her in the hotel room. She's amazing. How do I get in touch with her? And then she said, I will not do this conversation without Bridget, which led me now to Benny and Simone. So my world is full. And I want to, how do people take it from just being a concert or just for show to really understand there's a full community, there's a full deaf culture. And how do you share that with others? And I know you spoke about code switching at times, a part of so just speak about how rich the community is and how different it is for everyone.
Oh, yes. Typically, for code switching, I sign a little bit more professionally in workspaces. And then on my own time, I talk the way I talk. And then with my own family, I do SimCom. I will use my voice sometimes when I also sign. So it's about what's about most comfortable for me in each space. I know sometimes people don't understand my signing, so I have to make sure I have to accommodate the interpreters sometimes, which is also a separate issue. But most people think I also sign Black American Sign Language, but that is not true. I don't know any Black American Sign Language, BASL, but I know it's very generational and it's passed down through families that, occurred because of segregation in deaf schools. But I sign just a very Chicago style type of sign language. And with my sign language, I sign with my nails. I have my acrylics on and I am just that girl. And like, it's just the space in which I live, So like I'm able to be as femme as I want and talk with my nails. And interpreters have to understand that I am Bridget. This is part of me. My nails are part of me. My nails are Bridget, and Bridget are my nails, and it's my sign style. But I do not sign Black American Sign Language. This is just born and raised Chicago down. That's what this is.
All right. But there is such a thing, correct, as Black American Sign Language.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And recently, what just came out as of July 4th weekend, we had Sinners on HBO. And we actually had Michaela, who's going to be actually one of the Black. Sorry, that was the interpreter. Nakia, actually, Nakia, she is actually one of the person who is signing. She is native Black American Sign Language user, and she's the interpreter on HBO that you will be seeing when you watch Sinners.
I love that.
Yes, and also on Instagram too. So please make sure to follow her Instagram. She talks a lot about this on her page as well, about Black ASL, and she tells some stories and how it was passed down through her family.
And there are people out there that are willing to teach and educate about deaf culture using the opportunity during a medical appointment, or like if someone is accessing some, needs or goods or whatever, that's not a good time because they're here for a specific reason, and asking someone to teach you something during their time, we're past that. We're paying people to educate us. We're paying them for their time. We're paying them for their labor, especially if it's something that's accessible to you on the internet, books. So, but there are people out here that are willing to come be hired to talk to your residents, to talk to your educators about how do you connect with deaf or hard of hearing, people. How do you do that? How do you connect with the community? There are deaf clubs out there. They are meeting up at bars. They are having events where they are just anything you can think of. Deaf people are meeting up. Show up. Make sure you are not trying to just intrude and take over, but go in and just be willing to learn. And they'll have patience with you, which hearing people aren't, usually granting them the patience. But if they see that you are wanting to learn more about them from them, then the door cracks open and that trust begins to build. And I can't speak more to how they feel or, what they need from their community. But I often hear a lot that there are hearing people that want to teach about deaf culture, and it should be flipped. Deaf people, deaf and hard of hearing people should be in that room teaching about their culture, what they want to see, and what their expectations and hope for the future is.
Absolutely. When I went to class to learn, and they said it's going to be taught by someone who is completely deaf. And I was like, uh-oh, that's on me now to learn and to figure out if I don't understand something, how to say it, whether I type it or, repeat slow. One of the first things you learn is again in slow, at least for me. And and it doesn't take much to make an effort. And like a new language you're learning, you have to take the time to learn it.
And be around people that use it.
And be patient.
Yes. Yes. Tell me what else, if someone's in a business, because I also hear it's very hard to get jobs in corporations, which I know. What should a business be thinking about?
I think they should be open, have like an open door policy, and know that deaf people have sickening talents. Like we are just, again, everyone just has the potential to do whatever it is that they can, right? Everyone has the potential to do things in their own way. The same is true for deaf people. So just wake up that there are other ways of being and not to limit us. Don't put limitations on us because we can't be limited. We won't be.
That's what I wanted to hear. And do not limit, do not put someone
Period.
in a box.
It's satire, period, though.
You know, I must ask.
Also, Leslie, I'm sorry, but like before too, I used to work at a restaurant a long time ago,
Mhm.
and they had me washing dishes, and I said, "For what?" They said, "Oh, because you can't talk." I said, "Oh, wait, 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 wait." So I just applied here, and you're just gonna make me a dishwasher because I can't talk? No, 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 no. So I walked to the front, and I made myself a hostess. So I said, "No." So guess what? These people that come to me, you're gonna talk to me, and we're gonna make it work. So I was writing back and forth, and I flipped the script because I was gonna let them put me in a corner like that, and they ended up liking me. And the constant is us having to prove ourselves, right? But that's what opens doors. And I think in that space, the next time they meet a deaf person, they won't automatically assume that this person can't speak and this person has to work in the dishwashing or they work in the back. So we can communicate. There are ways of being, and I like being a trailblazer in these spaces to prove to the fact that we can do these things.
Yes, love that. Love that 100%. Epiphany, if you don't mind, how did you get started? Because that's a question that is asked a lot. How do you become an ASL interpreter? I'm like, learn, go to school, study. But
Yeah, it's something I always wanted to do. I met my first deaf person when I was about 7 or 8
Mhm.
and asked my mom, like, I wanted to go up and talk to them. My mom was like, whoa, 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 you don't know ASL. And I'm like, okay, well, what do the other people? Do they know ASL? And my mom was like, no, they probably use an interpreter. And I'm like, what's an interpreter? She explained it to me, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be an interpreter. And so I graduated from Columbia College of Chicago and 4 years of ITP, interpreting training program. I have no deaf family. At the time, I had no deaf friends. I just wanted to bring some type of representation to the field.
Mhm.
Growing up, I never seen an interpreter that looked like me. And I wanted to get up there so someone can look at me and say, I can do that, because I seen so many people and I wanted to do that profession, but I had to put aside that that person doesn't look like me. I can't do that. I had to put that to the side and said, I'm going to get all the information, go to all the events, study, practice. And you're right. When you get into that classroom, the voices are off. You have to rely on your memory. You have to rely on your willingness to say, I want to learn this language. As a Black woman, I go into spaces where I'm not even thought about or considered.
Mhm.
And as I've learned more and more about deaf culture, that's the same story I hear again and again. And so when I go to work, and I sometimes have to wear my badge on my forehead because they don't assume that I'm the interpreter because they see so many people that don't look like me. And I walk in and I see young Black girls and they're like, oh, where where'd you go to school? And I start telling them about my journey. And I'm like, you can go do this too. We need people that look like you too, because there are consumers, there are deaf and hard of hearing ASL users that would love to see you in the doctor's office. I would love to see you on stage because you know the culture already. So you just got to learn the language and how to interpret it. And just giving them the confidence that deaf people instilled in me going into appointments and meeting 70-year-old, 60-year-old Black deaf people saying I'm their first Black interpreter that they've met. So I'm just honored to be here. I wouldn't be here, have met you if Bridget didn't give me the honor of recording me, because that's a huge trust thing when it comes to deaf people putting interpreters on social media.
Yes.
Because social media can be used in the wrong way, as we all know. And so that's a huge, just an honor for me, for her to record and post that video. It meant so much to me that I made her concert outing worth it when she purchased her ticket.
Oh, I'm happy that you both were there. And
It was worth it. It was real totally worth it. And I'm just so happy. And then also when I posted on social media, I posted on Instagram, and I ended up talking with a few of my Black friends, and they were like, I never had a Black interpreter. I've never had a Black interpreter either. So they just didn't want the trauma of having to buy a ticket and show up at a concert space and not have an interpreter that represented them well, because they've all gone through it. So for me to show up and have a Black interpreter, it wasn't until I was like 35 that I had my first Black interpreter. And I realized that, like, again, I don't know how many Black interpreters are in the Chicago space, but I've only met 4 in Chicago at all. And like, this is like where I'm from, right? Like, Chicago is my hood. Like, that's where I'm from, born and raised. And I've only met 4 in total, but I didn't have a Black interpreter until I was 35. And so, like, it's because you never see interpreters of color either. A lot of my other deaf friends who I've polled and asked them, they're like, I don't understand why I don't have any BIPOC interpreters. And then from my experience working with a lot of white interpreters, a lot of them don't understand me. And they'll tell me specifically, oh, I don't understand you because of your nails. Your nails just make it very distracting for me to understand you. And it's a problem. If they're not around people like us, how can they interpret for people like us?
there's a whole lot I can say on that. But yes, and so I want people to see the screen. And I was excited because I don't see that many. And I travel and I hire ASL interpreters for clients and for our work shows. And I've had one that was out in LA, none in New York. How do I not have in New York? Like it's crazy to me. Exactly that face, Richard.
No way. That's
I
insane.
I have not met or seen, and not saying that they're not there, but from the events that I've been invited to, I haven't seen one. So I'm hoping that this will also open the door to allow people to see representation here on the screen today. I also feel that the young basketball player that was just drafted in the NBA, that he will also help share ASL representation, family history, culture, so many things that everyone needs to see and understand, that every culture comes in many different shapes and colors, and you must respect it and learn.
And definitely, Leslie. And also, when the video was posted and you get all these notifications, and I got to see so many ASL interpreter behind these Black and brown faces, and they would DM me, and I'm like, yes, like, so to be seen is to see, because that really inspired me. Just seeing like, oh, you're out there, and I'm reposting their stuff, because it's like we have to uplift each other. When you see someone else that looks like you and that you maybe haven't seen in a while, that someone that looks like you, don't be afraid to go up to them and say, I see you, or I'm glad you're here. Because yes, we're here for the deaf community, the deaf and hard of hearing community, the ASL users, etc. But also the interpreters, we have a community as well. And we also have a duty to uplift each other even if we don't come from the same background, even if you've never interpreted music before, or you don't do medical appointments, when we see each other in the field, or, yes, there are times for critical feedback, but there's something called a sandwich. I liked that. You could do that a little bit better. But you know what? I'm happy you showed up. Things like it's where we can
Yes.
build each other up instead of the opposite, or when that comes, or not saying anything at all, because it's not easy for people to get up in front of thousands. It's not easy for people to speak up. Like, we have two amazing interpreters today, signing, voicing. That takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. And to show up every day to do that without bias, that's power in that. So
Mm,
when you see another interpreter, whether they come from your own background or whether they come from the same field that you're working in, medical, theater, music,
right.
just kindness goes a long way. And we're here together to serve the community that which we got our certification and licensure for.
That we end on that. I just need to know the see. Look, there's nothing else to be said on that. You know, but I have to have you repeat. Is it see to be seen? When you've seen, you've been what was that? Because I'm gonna use that.
To be seen is to see.
Yes.
Because when people are standing up and clapping, you get to look out there and say, oh, look at you, look at you, look at you, you know?
Yes.
So
We move together. We should be moving together. Learn together. I can't say thank you enough. I really, really appreciate all four of you taking the time today to share, to be here. Bridget and Epiphany, tell me where people can find you. Social media.
So for me, this is Bridget. You can find me on Instagram at Deaf Family Matters,
Mhm.
so DFM, and also on Facebook under the same name, DFM, and then also on TikTok, DFM for all three of my handles, and then also Bridget Lemus. All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
and then my email is Epiphany, EPIPHANY .interpreter@gmail.com. My Instagram is the number 3, PIPHANY __.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I will send out a newsletter with all of their information in it. Keep watching and listening. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Kavu Group. And I look forward to speaking to all of you soon and seeing you all again. Take care.